Chattisgarh forest cover. India is a land of many natural resources. The area under natural vegetation is one of the prime resources for the country's economy and also for the production of many materials. The forest cover in India is 67.71 million hectares, which is 20.6% of its geographic area. Of this, 5.46 million hectares, which is 1.66%, is very dense forests. 33.26 million hectares, which is about 10.12%, is moderately dense. And the rest, 28.99 hectares, which amounts to 8.82%, is open, including 0.44 million hectares of mangroves. The percentage of forest cover in the hilly region of the country is 38.85%. And by excluding areas unavailable for plant growth in snow-clad areas, it comes to 52.4%. In India, the forest resources are well distributed across the country. The state of Madhya Pradesh has the largest area of 7.6 million hectares under forest cover, constituting 11.22% of the total forest cover, followed by Arunachal Pradesh, which is 10.01%, Chattisgarh, which is 8.25%, Orissa, 7.15%, and Maharashtra, which is 7.01%. In general, the northeastern Himalayan states alone maintain over 75% forest cover in India. Mizoram, 88.63%, Nagaland, 82.75%, Arunachal Pradesh, 80.93%, Tripura, 77.77%, and Manipur, 76.53%. The term forest cover refers to all lands more than 1 hectare in area with a tree canopy density of more than 10%, irrespective of ownership and legal status. Such lands may not necessarily be a recorded forest area. They may include orchards, bamboo, and palm. The word canopy in forests refers to the cover of branches and foliage formed by the crowns of trees. The canopy density relates to the percent area of land covered by the canopy of trees. It is expressed as a decimal coefficient, taking closed canopy as a unit. The cultivable non-forest area, which is known as CNFA, is the net geographical area lying outside recorded forest and forest cover, which can support tree vegetation. Forest inventory is the measurement of certain parameters of forests to assess the growing stock and other characteristics of forests. The term moderately dense forest refers to the lands with forest cover having a canopy density between 40 to 70%. The non-forest land is the land without forest cover. The term open forest refers to the lands with forest cover having a canopy density between 10 to 40%. In India, the protected forest is the area notified under the provisions of the Indian Forest Act or other state forest acts having limited degree of protection. In protected forests, all activities are permitted unless prohibited. The term scrub is used to denote a degraded forest land having the canopy density of less than 10%. Trees are defined as large woody perennial plants having a single well-defined stem or bole or trunk and a more or less definite crown. They include bamboos, palms, fruit trees, etc., and exclude non-perennial and non-woody species like banana and tall shrubs or climbers. The term very dense forest is used to refer to lands with forest cover having a canopy density of 70% and above. The state of Chattisgarh is one of the states of India having a good percentage of forest cover. It lies between latitudes 17 degrees 47 and 24 degrees 6 north and longitudes 80 degrees 15 and 84 degrees 24 to the east. The geographical area of the state is 1,35,191 square kilometers. It constitutes about 4.1% of the land area of the country. The Chattisgarh Plains, comprising 11 districts, the northern hills of Chattisgarh, comprising 2 districts, and the Bastar Plateau, which has 3 districts in it. The annual rainfall varies from 1,100 millimeters to 1,700 millimeters, and the temperature ranges between 11 degrees centigrade to 47 degrees centigrade. The land use pattern of the state has shown that the reported area of land utilization is 13.79 million hectares. The land use pattern of the state is as follows. The total geographic area is 13.519 million hectares. The reporting area for land utilization is 13.79 million hectares. The area of forests is 6.355 million hectares, which is about 46.08% of the state land area. The area not available for cultivation is 9,96,000 hectares. The area under permanent pastures and other grazing lands is 8,57,000 hectares. The land under miscellaneous tree crops and groves is only 1,000 hectares. The culturable wasteland is about 3,50,000 hectares. The area under fallow lands other than current fallows is about 2,38,000 hectares. The current fallows cover about 2,71,000 hectares, and the net area sown is 4.77 million hectares. This is about 34.24% of the total area. The recorded forest area in the state of Chattisgarh is 59,772 square kilometers. This is about 44.21% of the geographical area. The reserved, protected and unclassed forests in Chattisgarh constitute 43.13%, 40.21% and 16.65% of the total forest area respectively. Chattisgarh has protected forest areas, including national parks and wildlife sanctuaries. The state of Chattisgarh has 3 national parks and 11 wildlife sanctuaries. These cover an area of 0.29 million hectares and 0.36 million hectares respectively. Thus, a total of 0.65 million hectares area constituting about 4.79%. The state of Chattisgarh adopts the joint forest management practices. The joint forest management practice in the state of Chattisgarh, a new JFM resolution was issued in November 2001 after the creation of the state. There are 7,050 JFM committees in the state. A total of about 2.83 million hectares of forest area is under JFM, which is about 48% of the total forest area of the state. More than 2,70,000 families are involved in this program. The forest cover in the state of Chattisgarh is based on interpretation of satellite data. It is found to be 55,850 square kilometers. This is almost 41.33% of the state's geographical area. In terms of forest canopy density classes, the state has 4,162 square kilometers of very dense forest, 35,038 square kilometers of moderately dense forest, and 16,670 square kilometers of open forest also exist here. Now let us see the district-wise forest cover of Chattisgarh. The district of Bastar. The geographical area of Bastar district of Chattisgarh is 14,974 square kilometers. The total forest cover is 8,029 square kilometers, out of which the very dense forest cover is 1,352 square kilometers. The moderate to dense forest cover is 4,341 square kilometers. The open forest cover is found to be 2,336 square kilometers. The scrub cover is also found to be 8 square kilometers in size. Now the district of Bilaspur. The geographical area of Bilaspur district of Chattisgarh is 8,270 square kilometers. The total forest cover is 2,499 square kilometers, out of which the very dense forest cover is 336 square kilometers. The moderate to dense forest cover is 1,631 square kilometers. The open forest cover is found to be 531 square kilometers, while the scrub cover is also found to be 6 square kilometers in size. The district of Dantewada. The geographical area of Dantewada district of Chattisgarh is 17,634 square kilometers. The total forest cover is 11,350 square kilometers, out of which the very dense forest cover is 1,081 square kilometers. The moderate to dense forest cover is 6,175 square kilometers. The open forest cover is found to be 4,094 square kilometers. The scrub cover is 23 square kilometers. The district of Durg. The geographical area of Durg district of Chattisgarh is 8,549 square kilometers. The total forest cover is 769 square kilometers, out of which the very dense forest cover here in the district of Durg is 43 square kilometers. The moderate to dense forest cover is 523 square kilometers, while the open forest cover is found to be 203 square kilometers. The scrub cover amounts to 3 square kilometers. The district of Janjgir Champa. The Geographical area of Janjgir Champa is 3,852 square kilometers. The total forest cover is 157 square kilometers, out of which the very dense forest cover is 4 square kilometers. The moderate to dense forest cover is 26 square kilometers, while the open forest cover is found to be 127 square kilometers. The scrub cover here amounts to a mere 2 square kilometers. The district of Jashpur. The geographical area of Jashpur district is 5,838 square kilometers. The total forest cover is 2,190 square kilometers, out of which the very dense forest cover is 111 square kilometers. The moderate to dense forest cover is 1,499 square kilometers. The open forest cover is found to be 580 square kilometers, while the scrub cover is found to be 11 square kilometers. Kanker district. The geographical area of Kanker is 6,506 square kilometers. The total forest cover is 3,112 square kilometers, out of which the very dense forest cover is 213 square kilometers. The moderate to dense forest cover is 2,062 square kilometers. The open forest cover is found to be 837 square kilometers, while the scrub cover is found to be a simple 1 square kilometer. The Kawarda district. The geographical area of Kawarda district in Chattisgarh is 4,223 square kilometers. The total forest cover is 1,599 square kilometers, out of which the very dense forest cover constitutes 70 square kilometers. The moderate to dense forest cover is 1,140 square kilometers. The open forest cover is found to be 389 square kilometers, while the scrub cover is found to be 3 square kilometers. Korba district. The geographical area of the district of Korba is 6,599 square kilometers. The total forest cover is 3,354 square kilometers, out of which the very dense forest cover is 204 square kilometers. The moderate to dense forest cover is 2,300 square kilometers here, while the open forest cover is found to be 842 square kilometers in size. The scrub cover is found to be 6 square kilometers. Korea district. The geographical area of the district of Korea in Chattisgarh is 6,604 square kilometers. The total forest cover is 4,116 square kilometers, out of which the very dense forest cover is 79 square kilometers. The moderate to dense forest cover is 2,607 square kilometers, while the open forest cover is found to be 1,430 square kilometers. The scrub cover here is found to be a small 3 square kilometers. The Mahasamund district. The geographical area of Mahasamund district is 4,789 square kilometers. The total forest cover is 965 square kilometers, out of which the very dense forest cover here is a mere 5 square kilometers. The moderate to dense forest cover is 536 square kilometers, while the open forest cover is found to be 424 square kilometers in size. The scrub cover is found to be 7 square kilometers in size. The Raigad district. The geographical area of Raigad district is 7,086 square kilometers. The total forest cover is 2,562 square kilometers, out of which the very dense forest cover is 126 square kilometers. The moderate to dense forest cover is 1,704 square kilometers, while the open forest cover is found to be 732 square kilometers. The scrub cover is found to be 8 square kilometers. Raipur and Dhamtari district. The geographical area of Raipur and Dhamtari district is 16,468 square kilometers. The total forest cover is 5,469 square kilometers, out of which the very dense forest cover is 189 square kilometers. The moderate to dense forest cover is 3,848 square kilometers, while the open forest cover is found to be 1,432 square kilometers. The scrub cover here is found to be 7 square kilometers in size. Rajnandgaon district. The geographical area of Rajnandgaon district is 8,068 square kilometers. The total forest cover is 2,535 square kilometers, out of which the very dense forest cover is 29 square kilometers. The moderate to dense forest cover is 1,789 square kilometers. Open forest cover is found to be 717 square kilometers, while the scrub cover is found to be 4 square kilometers in size. Sarguja district. The geographical area of Sarguja is 15,731 square kilometers. The total forest cover is 7,165 square kilometers, out of which the very dense forest cover is 320 square kilometers. The moderate to dense forest cover is 4,849 square kilometers, while the open forest cover is found to be 1,996 square kilometers in size. The scrub cover is 15 square kilometers. Let us see the altitude zone-wise forest cover in the state of Chattisgarh. The altitude zone-wise forest cover is seen as follows. Between 0 and 500 meters altitude, very dense forest cover is about 1,873 square kilometers. Moderately dense forest covers about 16,911 square kilometers. Open forest covers about 10,116 square kilometers, and all types put together is about 28,900 square kilometers in size. Between altitudes of 500 and 1,000 meters, the very dense forest covers an area of about 2,278 square kilometers, while the moderately dense forest covers an area of about 17,708 square kilometers. Open forest covers an area of about 6,305 square kilometers, and all types put together amount to 26,291 square kilometers. Between altitudes 1,000 and 2,000 meters, very dense forest covers an area of about 11 square kilometers, while moderately dense forest covers an area of about 419 square kilometers. The open forest covers an area of about 249 square kilometers, and all types put together amount to 679 square kilometers. In the state of Chattisgarh, in all these altitudinal zones, very dense forest covers an area of about 4,162 square kilometers. Moderately dense forest covers an area of about 35,038 square kilometers, while open forest covers an area of about 16,670 square kilometers. All types put together amount to 55,870 square kilometers. Now, let us see the forest cover in different forest types. As per the Champion and SAIT classification, the state of Chattisgarh has 9 forest types. All of them belong to 2 forest groups, tropical moist deciduous and tropical dry deciduous. Tree cover. The estimated tree cover in the state is 4,027 square kilometers, which is 2.98% of the geographical area of the state. The top 10 districts with the largest area of forest in Chattisgarh are Dantewada, 11,350, Bastar, 8,029, Sarguja, 7,165, Raipur and Dhamtari, 5,469, Korea, 4,116, Korba, 3,354, Kanker, 3,112, Raigad, 2,562, Rajnandgaon, 2,535, and finally Bilaspur with 2,498 square kilometers of forest. Forests have always been of great importance to human beings. Today, people depend on forests especially for their economic value, their environmental value, and their value for culture and recreation.